Hi everyone, I hope your day is going great. So I just got back from a walk and in during my walk, you know how sometimes a song will just stick in your mind. And for whatever reason, I have this song somewhere over the rainbow going over and over in my mind. And it's one of my favorite versions. It's by this gentleman named Israel. I can't pronounce his last name. It starts with a Kamak. I'm not unable to pronounce it. But if you've never heard of the song, just Google Somewhere Over the Rainbow by Israel and it'll come right up. It's very popular. And so I thought how fun it would be to put on a bracelet. So I've got these aluminum bracelet blanks. Say that real quick. Anyhow, and I thought, that would be cute. It's a happy song for me, and I thought it would be fun to put a rainbow on here. I've got a rainbow here, and I've got a little bluebird here, which goes along with this song. I've got some examples for you, and then I have a surprise at the end of my video that relates to some of the best fonts to use for engraving, which I think you'll find helpful. So let me just show you these up real close. I think I can get it to this camera so you can kind of see it. So this was the first one I made with just a regular font. In fact, let me see, it's called Everyday Fonts Best of Times is the one I used for this one. Now it's getting kind of a glare, I apologize. And then this one that's curved, I already curved it, actually is probably one of my favorites. It's called Zigzag. Oh, it's really kind of hard to see. Look close and kind of tilt it. Anyway, I just wanted to show you this real quick before I started the project so I could talk to you a little bit about the fonts. And like I said, there is going to be the surprise at the end. Now, as far as engraving, there's specific fonts that will show up better. And what I mean by that is some of the fonts will have like little extra drawing marks. Or you can go with these fonts like I did on this one, and it will show up better for your project than just a regular writing font. So this is a writing font, but it has extra design and squiggles in it to where you'll actually be able to see it better in your engraving project. Okay, so I've got that part out of the way. And like I said, there's a surprise at the end if you want to stick around. All right, so the main thing, actually, let me go on over to Design Space first of all, and I'll show you the project. I'm going to go ahead and I'll put this file for you in my resource library if you're interested in making the same bracelet, or you can make your own bracelet using your own fonts and your own style. Maybe you want to have something like maybe gratitude written on your bracelet or something like that. Okay, so let's go on over to Design Space. Okay, so here we are at Design Space, and this is my file here. Now I've got, these are the two fonts I was talking about. This one right here, I think it's in here. Nope, okay, this one is the Zigzag. Let me make it a little bit bigger so you can kind of see it a little bit better. Okay, so see how this font is a little bit bolder and wider, and it has these little squiggles on like the left side of each letter. That's going to make it show up better on your engraving project. This font here is the everyday font, and it's called Best of Times. So both of these are writing styles, but I wanted to show you the difference between one that's going to look better in an engraving project. And it doesn't really matter if you're engraving on aluminum or anodized aluminum or leather or acrylic, any type of medium that you can engrave on. If you're going to have a font that's a little bit wider and has some squiggles in it, you're going to see it better on your project. So I just wanted to kind of start off with that. Let me kind of get these bunched back up. Okay, so just real quick to show you how I made this. Let me bring it back down to 100%. So this is the actual size that I want to put on the bracelet. And the way that I did it, in case you want to make your own, was I just made a quick little template, which I'll turn on my layer here. and you'll see. So I just made a template, which is the exact size of the bracelet. Okay, so what I did was I took the bracelet and I measured it. I got the exact measurements, and then I took a shape and I took a square, and then I unlocked it. And then I'm just going to kind of eyeball it now because I don't want to have to, do the whole thing perfectly. So I got what I thought measured perfectly for that. And then I took a circle and I just shrunk it down. And I put it so that it would be perfectly lined up with the edge of this rectangle, and I measured how much distance was from, on the actual bracelet, and I just welded these two pieces together and I put one on each end. So that is how I made a template, and then I changed it to the color white. Okay, so just real easily, that's how I make a template. And the reason I do a template is, especially with this one, because I wanted the little rainbow and the bluebird. It helps me know exactly where it's going to be on the actual physical project. And so what I could do is, like, say if I wanted it here and I wanted to make sure everything lined up, I would just rubber band around it, select everything together and then align and then center. And that's going to let me know exactly how it's going to look on my project. So once I have this, my text written and my little pretty little shapes added, and I've got this how I want it, and I know that everything is spaced apart perfectly, then I can just go ahead and turn that layer off because I don't need it, right? I mean, you could. I have, on some of my projects, I've actually turned the cut line into a score line, but honestly, for this type of project, you really don't need to, because the main thing with an engraving project is that when you line it up on the next Cricut mat, as long as you line it up perfectly on the computer Cricut mat and then line it up perfectly on the actual physical mat, then you're not going to have a problem lining up your project. I would advise just check and recheck, make sure that both places are lined up exactly, identically the same, and you won't have a problem lining up your project. So let me show you how I do mine. Okay, so I'm going to do this one down here. So I'm just going to take this one and I'm going to turn that layer off. I left them both here in case you want to use one or the other, and I wanted to show you the example. So since I'm not going to engrave this one, I'm going to turn that layer off. So I'm going to do this one here. All right, so it doesn't matter where it's on this mat here, right? It's going to matter on the next screen. So I'm going to click on Make It, and just so you know, if I click on it, it is selected to engrave the whole project. Okay, I grouped it all together, I attached it, and switch the line type to engrave. So it's ready to go. I'm going to click on Make It. Now this is where I was saying you need to make sure you line it up perfectly. Now my preference, where I have had the least amount of mistakes lining anything up, and let me tell you, usually if I make a mistake lining something up, I'm going to be honest with you and tell you that it's user error on my end. It has not been this way as far as my Cricut. Okay, so what I do is I line up the middle of what I think is the middle, right? You can measure it. And I like to line it up at the beginning of the 6 at the top and the 6 to the left. Okay? What makes it easiest, so I'm going to put it in the middle of the line. Going to be right around here. That's just me eyeballing it, okay? Which is actually pretty close. So what I'm saying is you want to put the middle of this design at the middle of the 2 6s that join together. What I like to do as well, makes it a lot easier, is down here you have your zoom level. I like to bring it up to about 200%. It doesn't change anything, but it just makes it easier for you to see. Right? That's a lot easier to see. Okay, so I've got it, like I said, I eyeballed it. And now what you can't see on this end is I use a little ruler. It's just a little 7-inch sewing clear ruler. Now the clear ruler helps because I can see through it when I'm lining it up on these lines here. That's why I like to use this particular ruler. I'll show you the ruler when I get back over to the other desk that I have. Okay, and so I want to line it up in the middle of, like, say this O here, where I want the line to go through. And then I know that when I line it up, I'm just going to move it a tad bit over. Okay, so this is exactly where I want it to be. This will be in the middle, right? I've chosen the middle. It's at the beginning of the six, the two sixes. I made it bigger so I could ensure that it's actually lined up. I think that's one of the biggest things for me was before, when I didn't even realize you could zoom here, I was like really trying to eyeball it when it was small. But when I started making it bigger, it made it so much easier. Another trick you can do is if you're really, if you're nervous about making sure it's going to be in the middle, do one on a piece of paper, right? Make a little template and cut it out of a regular piece of paper and then put that on your mat and then have it draw the design instead of engrave the design. So there's a tip for you too if you're really struggling with trying to line it up. But I like doing it this way. It's the way I've had the most success. So I'm going to bring it back down. I feel that it's perfectly in the middle where I want it to go. And I'm going to bring it back down to 100%. And I'm going to click on continue. Now we don't need to mirror it or anything like that because it's a straight up engraving project. So just click on continue. I'm going to click on browse all materials. Okay, so I'm going to select aluminum sheets and then click done. And then it tells you to make sure that you have your engraving tip in, which is the number 41. Okay, so let's hop on over to the other desk. This was the ruler that I was referring to that I was using to help me line it up on the actual mat. You don't have to use this, it's just something that helps me. So I just wanted to show you that real quick. It's made by Dritz, D-R-I-T-Z. And it's actually one of my favorite go-to rulers. All right, so there's that. Now, this is the other place that you need to line it up. I did this before just so you didn't have to have my head in the way trying to line it up because I do lean forward when I'm trying to line it up. So basically, all I did was I did the same thing. Here's the six, here's the six. I lined it up in the middle. What I do is I use a caliper. You certainly don't have to, but I find it very helpful. I use this end, not this end. I use the end that flares out. I turn it on. I like it on millimeters for this measuring. And then what I do is I line these up between the bracelet and the outside line. So just like this. And then I roll it to where this point is here and this point is here. And then I measure it on both sides. Make sure that the number is the same. If it's off, right? If it's off by even 2 points on this end, then I know to move my bracelet a little bit up or down. So this really makes it's very precise if you use one of these. You certainly don't have to, you can eyeball it, but just another trick. I love using this for lining these up. So this is, got it on Amazon, just a regular stainless steel digital caliper. Comes in millimeter, inches, fractions. I love it, it's perfect. Perfect for this project. Okay, so I've got everything lined up. Now this is how the kit comes. You can get a kit that comes with the little tool to be able to bend your bracelet, okay? It's by Impress Art. And it comes with seven pieces inside of the bracelets, okay? So they come straight like this. On both sides, there's this little protective sheet. I keep the piece on the bottom and then I keep it on the top as well until I get the tape on, or just before I put the tape on, then I peel this off on the top of the bracelet only. That way I don't get it all smudged up and everything as I'm lining it up. Oops, sticking to my finger. Okay, so I want to show you the engraving tip. If this is your first time engraving, you want to use your, what I did was I had the quick swap housing. It has the plunger button, right? Because this was actually my one for my scoring wheel, okay? So if you have the scoring wheel, then you already have the quick swap housing. So here's the difference. Here's one of my rotary blades. I don't know if you can see that here. This one has a button, this one does not. Okay? So hopefully that glare is not getting you. So there's the difference. Make sure you choose the one that has the button, right? When you push down on the button, then you can pull this part out. Okay? That's why they call it quick swap, because you can quickly do that. And then one thing too to remember is when you're putting this back in the machine, make sure you don't push the button as you're putting it in, because you don't want your engraving tip to fall off while you're using it. So I always grab it on the side here, put it in the machine, and then just close it. There we go. All right, and it's ready to go. It's already for me to load the mat. There isn't anything else I need to do, except for I will say that there is a slight gap in between this little line where you put your mat in. If you want to make sure it's perfect, don't have it all the way to the left or all the way to the right. There is some wiggle room there. What I do is I try to put it just perfectly in the middle. Make sure I'm pressing it here at the end of the mat. I'm just lightly touching it, that way it doesn't wiggle. And then I hit the load button. And of course you want to make sure that your rollers are all the way to the side. So if they're in the middle here, make sure you push them over. All right, and now she's ready to engrave. I will hit the go button and let it engrave. Okay, we want to unload our mat. All right, now that looks really good. Now, what I want to do too, I want to show you real quick. What I do is I didn't grab it yet, but there we go. I grab my lint roller and I just kind of go over it back and forth a little bit, just so that the little pieces of metal don't get on my counter. And then if you're doing a bunch of engraving, like sometimes I do a lot of, engraving projects in a row. If you're doing that, then make sure that you keep this area clean. You can either use an air can or just take a cloth and just wipe lightly in there to make sure that it doesn't build up. And then also your tip. If you do a bunch of engraving projects in a row, then it'll start to build up on your tip, and then just take like a rag and just wipe it off and then put it back in before your next project. So those are some tips that I've learned when I've done a whole bunch of engraving in a row. All right, so I want to show you real quick too. Let me just take the tape off. There we go. Okay, so here is how it looks with the pretty, I just love that font. Let me get this out of the way here. Now I wanted to show you on another bracelet that I did. Where did I put it? Oh, right here. Okay, so this here, I added some color to it. I know it's probably really hard to see. I don't know if you can see it better in this camera. The glare maybe not as bad, but I did the word rainbow and I did the word somewhere in black ink. I used two different kinds. I apologize, it's probably real difficult to see that. So basically this is what I did, and this is a personal preference. Myself, I prefer not to have the black ink in it. It's just, I think it looks better just like this. But some people do prefer the black ink. So just to show you what I did was, Impress Art sells a pen. This is basically just a water-based enamel marker, right? Which is basically acrylic paint. So when you do it, when you open these, you shake them up really, really, really good, and then you have to initialize the pen, and you have to initialize it quite a bit. Now this one I've used over and over and over, so I don't need to initialize it. But what initializing means is taking the pen and just pushing up and down. Okay, I don't want to do it too much, it's going to waste my ink. But I kid you not, I probably did it 30 to 40 times before the ink started coming out the way that it should. So keep that in mind. This is just an extra nib in case that one wears out and you need a new one. What you do is you wipe it on, you take it, in fact, let me just do it to this one real quick so you can see. So you take it and you just color, right? You're just try to put the color only where the letters are. I would do it both ways, kind of in a circle, because you want it to kind of get down into the metal, right? You don't want to just skim over it. You just want to kind of fill it in. Make sure it gets everywhere. You can feel it as you're doing it when it's hitting the metal. Okay, so then there's that. You put that on and then just put the cap on. Now, this is my favorite. This is my go-to whenever I do acrylic. This is an oil-based Sharpie, so there's the difference between the two. It's a little bit harder to get off of acrylic. I have a video on where I did, what's it called? I have one here. I did canning lids, right? I engraved the canning lid, and then I also made an acrylic. That's probably kind of hard to see. I don't know if you can see it better in this camera. Actually, let me do this. Let me get some paper. That might be able to help. I think that way you can see it better. So these Sharpies come in different colors, right? Not just black, which is nice. So like this one, I just got these little canning jar pieces of acrylic, and then I did black for the homemade with love, and I did red for the heart. Anyway, I just thought that came out cute, right? And these were like little gifts, and then I like to make our own healthy granola. It doesn't have any oils or fats in it or salt or anything. This is super healthy organic granola that I put in my yogurt. Anyway, so I wanted to show you that. So like I said, these are my go-to. It's a Sharpie. This is the black one. So same thing. You just take it, well, first you shake it like a bunch. And then you do the same thing like I had just done over here. Okay, so you just go around, try to get different angles so it really gets the ink, you know, really pushes the ink on in there. If you get a little bit over like that, it's really no big deal. I'm just trying not to get it on my fingers is all, so I'm going to set it down here. And you can do multiple layers. If you feel like the first layer wasn't enough, then you can do a multiple layer. I've engraved my bracelet. I've did it up to 5 times, and to be honest with you, I never even noticed a difference. So I don't know, maybe it's different for other people, but for me, in other words, what I'm explaining is when the bracelet engraves and you have not unloaded your mat again, then press the C button one more time. It will load your mat for you and re-engrave in the exact same place. The minute you pull your mat out of your machine, then you cannot line it back up exactly. So if you want to try engraving your bracelet 5 times or 2 times to see if you can get a deeper line, that's how you would go about it. But like I've said, I've done it, and I honestly have not noticed a difference in acrylic or aluminum. So there we go. These have to be initialized too when you first get them. So same thing, just push up and down, up and down. Okay, so that's good. Put the cap back on. And then both of these, it's a little bit different with acrylic, but with aluminum, the nice thing is you don't even have to wet this rag or anything. You can see it, I just keep this rag in my cupboard. I use it only for ink projects. So this one's still wet. This one, I'm gonna let dry just a little bit longer. So it's about 3 to 5 minutes drying time on both of these, and then you just take your rag and wipe it off. I'm trying to think of what else I could refer to. Well, this dries, how about I bend the bracelet? So I have to apologize for this part because these are difficult for me to bend because I have carpal tunnel in my wrist, and it's extremely painful. So I might have to do part of this off camera in order to get my strength. Since I don't have strength in my wrist, it's like I'm using more of my arm to bend it, and the only way for me to do that is on the edge of my desk here. So I do apologize for that. But basically, just so I can explain it to you, I might not even bend it. I might have Gary bend it for me because I don't want to hurt my wrist any more than it does. I would keep this on, and if you're worried about while you're doing this, you could put a piece of blue tape on both sides to protect it as you're bending it. So there's a suggestion for you. So basically what you want to do is, this is kind of like your handle. You want to put it here, and the thing is, while you're bending it, you don't want it to move. I've seen people when they've made them and it flips out. Basically, if you can get this and hold it here and then use your hand, right? You want to keep something here. And I just found it easier to do it off of the edge of my desk. It just gives me more strength to do it. So I'm not going to do it, but I'm just going to show you that that's how I do it. So you want to put something here to keep that there. You want to hold this down and you want to press this down. Now if your wrist isn't bad and you've got the strength, you can sit here and you can do a little bit at a time. The main thing is you want to get it bent around here, and then you pick it up and you turn it around. Same thing, make sure this stays down, and then do it around again until where you end up having, show it on this one. So you end up having, you don't bend it in the middle, right? It's pretty soft metal, so you want to be careful so you don't get any creases in it. So I apologize that I can't really show you how to do it, as I don't want to hurt my wrist, but that is the method that you use. Just do a little bit at a time, because you can't undo a bend, right? But you can shape it and have it go as you go. Yeah. See, I keep wanting to do it to show you, but I don't want to hurt my wrist. But that is the process, okay? So let's get back to here. This has been long enough for this side to dry, and I'm just going to take a rag. I'll just show you on a clean spot here, and I'm just going to wipe it off. It takes a little bit of time, not a whole lot. These inks work really well. I don't know if you've ever stamped metal, right, with those little alphabet stamps. That is what mainly I think this is for. Those you can really see when you put the ink on them. In my opinion, it helps a little bit be able to see it, but again, it's the look that you're after, right, for something like this. So this is now twice I've done this, and honestly, I just don't think it makes that big of a difference. It's so hard to see with I got my windows open, and my lights are so bright in here to film. Got the glare going on. I don't know if you can see it better on this one. Well, maybe if I line it up, huh? See, try to get an angle on it. Oop, 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 oop. Cover it. Trying to keep the glare. Oh, I wish you could see it. Okay, so let's wipe this side off. We'll see how this goes. One reason I like these oil based is they have more stain power, in my opinion. Like I said, that's what I used on those acrylic. My dog's gonna bark at the mailman. Oh good, she didn't bark. Okay, so as you can see, it's wiping off everything but inside of the letters. It just rubs off on the outside. So these were just examples so I could show you. This is the bracelet that I'll keep because I like that font in there, and I think it shows up really, really well compared to that other font. So again, the font that I prefer on this one, I have more fonts that you can use, but this one, compared these two together, will really make a big difference in the fonts, I think, for the engraving project. Alright, so there's the other one. Again, just for me personally, I'm not that impressed. So I'm choosing not to use the pens, but I did want to show you in case you were wondering. I'd rather have me waste the product than for you. Alright, so there's my project. And then my surprise. Okay, so my surprise is I've been doing a lot of engraving and testing on all kinds of different surfaces, and some are for some future projects that I have lined up. I love engraving with my Cricut Maker. I just think it's so exciting. But one of the things that I did find was that the fonts really, really mattered. And so what I did was I took my 10 of my favorite fonts, or maybe it's 11. I'm trying to remember. I forget. It's either 10 or 11. I think it's 10. Anyhow. I'm going to go ahead and along with this file, the Cricut file, I'll also add my list of my top 10 fonts that is in Cricut Access. I believe one of them, even if you're an Access subscriber, I think one of them is a paid font. In other words, if you're already a member, you would still have to pay, I think it's like $3.99 or $4.99 for it. But the rest of them are all free as long as you're a Cricut Access subscriber. And these are just the best fonts. That way you don't have to, you'll know that I've already used them for engraving and approved them for a better font, a better looking font. So every one of them has more of a drawing design. It's a writing design, but some of them have squiggles like the zigzag one. And so it makes the letters, the engraving easier to see on your project. So I will keep that list for you in my resource library. That way you don't have to worry. If you ever lose it, just come back to my resource library. It's always free. And I'll keep it there for you. Alright, so I hope that helps. I hope you like this project of engraving aluminum with your Cricut Maker. And I hope you like your little list of fonts. Alright, take care and remember to create with love. Bye!